Back in the hot seat. You know what that means. I think you know what that means. Come on. Oh yeah. Well, I tried to tell you so, but I guess you didn't know. As the saddest story goes, baby, now I got the flow. Baby, when you broke my heart, that I had to come again and show you that I'm real. You lied to me. All those times I said that I love you. Even though you know I died for you. Yes, I cry. Yes, I cry. Here it is. Come on. Oh my gosh. Here I am. Oh, once again, top of the world.
The paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murdering scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I'll go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green in the skin and they run around screaming, "We love Satan, we want to eat babies." I have them on video.
Hillary's into creepy, weird, sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weirdo woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. Her head. That woman, number one, is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur.
Literal vampire pot-belly goblins all been around looking after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go.
We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice stuff rising up against us. Disappointed people of the very worst kind, man. I'm so sick. Sick, pissed. We're gonna sell your daughter at the mall. Oh. We're gonna sell your wife, your son. You with a butcher knife, and the police chief is gonna say, "We love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good. Oh, they're so sweet." Welcome everybody. I felt it that time. Did you feel it? Did the earth move for you too, chat? What is this video called? The greatest live stream ever. Oh, you're talking about Alex. What's up, man? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Espresso? How you doing with that espresso? All right. So I got treats for y'all today. I'm going to discuss part of my lecture. So part of what I did at our event, we had a wild time. Tell a little bit of the stories behind the event. And I'm going to talk about my talk. Because everybody said last time, hey, this last year that you did live events, nobody got to see your talk. That's how you get people to come to a live event and not just be lazy watching on the internet. So, but because many people can't come to live events, even though we literally try to do them everywhere. We did an event in LA 8 months ago. We did an event in LA this last weekend. And I literally over the weekend met like 20 people who were like, when you gonna come do an event in LA? I'm like, why do you think I'm here, dude? And why aren't you at it? Oh, dude, I didn't know, man. My bad, dude. Well, just follow what I'm doing. I literally posted that stuff until everybody's brains melted from how many freaking clickbait times I posted it. Welcome. It's okay. I forgive your laziness. You get one Pope Francis pardon free of charge. So I'm going to do tonight a bunch of different topics. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I'm going to talk about part of my talk. So you're going to see maybe the first 30 minutes of my talk. I'll probably clip that out as its own thing. Because so many people said, I want to see your talk. I can't come see you live. It's okay. I will take care of you. I will take care of your lazy ass. Even though you don't deserve it. That's why I'm EBT. That's why I'm EBT. So, where are we at? People were saying, hey, this was a great talk from 10 years ago almost. 9 years ago. Catherine Austin Fitts interview. I'm going to talk about some of that. That's going to be fun. We're going to talk about Camus' posts. He always got great posts. A few other articles. I titled it, though, this because this was very revealing. The deep state is actually kind of awesome, New York Times declared. Now, remember, this was on the heels of their old article that they wrote a few years ago that there's no such... Well, wait, first there wasn't a deep state, right? What is this crap? There we go. Remember, there wasn't a deep state. And then, because if you talked about it, you were an evil bigot. Because there's no such thing as it. But when everybody figured out there is such a thing, well, yeah, of course there is, and it's a good thing. So, total hypocrisy, total nonsense. And, I don't know, is this behind some stupid-ass paywall? Probably. But nobody wants to read your paywall crap anyway, so. This is, oh, it's an opinion video? After 50 minutes of advertising. Okay, so this is a 50-minute ad and then a video on why the deep state is actually kind of like rad and awesome, bro.
I will totally obliterate the deep state. I will fire.
Donald Trump is obsessed with the deep state.
The deep state, the deep state is destroying our nation.
Either the deep state destroys America or we destroy the deep state.
And many Republicans are widening his paranoia.
These unelected bureaucrats ruining this country.
From a cabal of security agents to
The sick political class that hates our country.
if elected, Trump's vowed to gut the federal government.
Reinstate the Schedule F executive order and, quote, fire rogue bureaucrats.
But who are these bureaucrats and what makes them so dangerous?
Dude, every bureaucrat is a rogue bureaucrat because they're an entire rogue class of criminals. So, remember, again, I've been talking about these topics since I learned about them in the late 90s. I first learned about Bilderberg in 1998. And there was like an old sketchy GeoCities website back in the old days of conspiracy stuff exposing Bilderberg. And it was like, you know, cropped pictures and everything out of order and pretty much the way my website is nowadays, right? It's this, I'm reviving and keeping the same style of ancient GeoCities DIY websites. And I learned about Bilderberg, and they have this, conference, and all these elite people go there. And here we are, math is racist, dude. I don't even know the numbers anymore. What's 2024? It's 26 years later. Don't oppress me with your logics. Don't oppress me with your times tables, racists. Anyway, 26 years later, and people have figured this out. It's in the mainstream now. It's still not really clear, and so you can tell this New York Times admission video here is really just kind of acting like, what is this amorphous concept of the deep state? We don't even know what this is. Does Donald Trump mean secret agents? Does he mean the political class? What even is this? We don't even know. Meanwhile, the left, ironically, the very entity that you see here, the CIA mouthpiece, New York Times, for decades criticized the CIA as a deep state. I have on my shelf probably 10 books from old, well, I guess you could say is just, quote, what's considered left, right? Like 70s, 80s, 90s left. Criticisms of the deep state. Peter Dale Scott coins the term deep state. I have his book on CIA cocaine politics. He coins the term. And those are people traditionally considered somewhat on the left. And yet here now, none of that ever happened. It doesn't exist. Total Orwellian stuff. And Donald Trump talks about something that anybody with half a brain knew about, 30 years ago. By the way, the other weird part is that what Trump talks about is just the older Democrat Party platform. So, like being against totally open borders, that used to be a NAFTA neocon thing. Remember with the Republicans, GOP people, they typically wanted this idea, that they fostered this idea, giant businesses, giant corporations, if they're allowed to, screw everybody over and have unlimited, cheap labor and tax breaks, this will help America. I mean, just total nonsense, but totally a war on the middle class, the working class. That used to be the platform of the Democrats. And remember the old, aren't there old Bill Clinton and Obama clips where Clinton's like, we're gonna build a wall and stop hurting the workers, and Barack Obama's like, we gotta stop the illegals. Illegals are coming through, taking American jobs. This hurts the working class. My husband Michael is going to be the first to step in there and give these people good diets, good elementary school diets, right? I mean, she is pretty buff. She's pretty buff. So, I mean, putting them on that hormone diet. You know what I mean? So, that's just jokes.
We needed answers, so we took a trip across America.
In 100 yards, take the exit.
In search of the people behind this threatening entity.
Oh, it's just like giggling idiots and weirdos. There's no deep state. It's this fiction that Trump has made up, even though the New York Times itself used to write articles about this very thing. But now it's cool.
First stop, Huntsville, Alabama. Sure looks like some nefarious government activity happens around here.
And then they just pick boring office buildings as if that's where Black Ops goes down. Although I'm sure that some Black Ops does go down in some boring ass office building shit, right? I mean, that's obviously, that is where you would have some, right, some, I mean, this is like in movies, right? There's shit going down at the docks and at the warehouse. I mean, there's just go to the docks or the warehouse, there's some shit going down. Also, by the way, at any boring office building, there probably is some Black Ops stuff going down, but he's just chosen some innocuous building to be like, oh, Trump thinks that there's crazy shit going down here, like business pie charts at the business building. well, this is this is where we sell all of our business, and our businessmen are engaged in business charts. And this year we've sold 33% of businesses to the business sector. Look at the business charts. This is the deep state.
Meet Scott Bellamy.
I am a mission manager in the Planetary Missions Program Office.
He drives a Nissan Titan 4x4. He's loved Star Trek since he was a kid.
Of course.
What does this have to do with the deep state? They found some boomer soy nerd who likes Star Trek. Look, this is what Trump thinks is the deep state. Boomer men that like Star Trek.
It's either Captain Kirk or Mr. Spock.
And he may have quite literally saved the planet from annihilation.
Potentially.
You see, Scott managed a mission called
The Double Asteroid Redirection Test.
And back in 2022, his team used your tax dollars to pull off something kind of incredible.
You have an asteroid.
So a bunch of fake and gay space stuff. Fake threats, right? Oh, there might have sort of been a meteor coming, and we saved you from that. Trust me, though. Even though you never heard of it, you never saw. We're the unsung heroes, Larry. Like the CIA has the wall of the names that you can't know. Nobody knows the names of the agents, the unsung heroes. These are the unsung heroes of science, right? The science world. Soy science men who save us from impending doom and the apocalypse by a bunch of science bullcrap.
Then you have a spacecraft, and you fly the spacecraft into the asteroid and try to change.
Okay, none of which actually happened, by the way, right?
Trajectory of that asteroid. It's like playing pool in space. Everybody was holding their breath. This is the moment of truth. Did we hit it?
We got it?
So, just a bunch of, look at that dude wearing his mask, and this thunder thighs science girl up here in the front.
And we have impact.
With no butt. The flattest, look, nobody at NASA has a butt, dude. What the heck? Because they all sit on their butts all day. They need to be doing some nice hip thrusts and getting a little bit of plump juicage going on in their rear section. All these NASA people have basically, need to be doing some hip thrusts. That's how you get those nice round boosters, as they say. Get it? Because of NASA boosters. That's from Space Camp.
They knocked an asteroid off its course, proving something that had previously...
Yeah, okay. This didn't happen, by the way. So this is literally the plot of Armageddon. And if you watch Armageddon, you would be surprised, by the way, how much Armageddon is actually propaganda. Jamie and I watched it not too long ago. We had fun watching a bunch of those 90s blockbusters. Because remember, you've got Affleck, you got Ben Affleck, you've got Bruce Willis, Steve Buscemi playing the same nerd character that he always plays in every movie. Who Ving Rhames, Ethan, what you do to my Gucci suit, Ethan? Right? Who else? Right? All of this, the same cast. Isn't somebody else like? No, Matthew McConaughey's not in that. I get all of those 90s apocalypse movies. They all blend into the same, because they're basically the same movie, right? They all have like Morgan Freeman and Bruce Willis and Aaron Eckhart and Matthew McConaughey, and they're all the same. Anyway, but if you go back and watch it, the whole movie is just about Americanism. And so this New York Times dude wants me to believe that like the plot of Armageddon is legit, right? And what does this have to do with the deep state anyway? So the deep state is Space Force protecting us from deep impact and Morgan Freeman becoming the president in the apocalypse. Morgan Freeman, right? Morgan Freeman. Well, he could save us from our racist disaster presidency that we currently have. I'm sorry, I was under Trump derangement. I meant under the Trump administration with all the racism, the rampant racism that we had. If we only had a deep impact style reset, a great reset, Morgan Freeman style, cleansing the earth of the racists, then we could have a social, then we could have a just with Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, and Liv Tyler. Anyway, the whole point was it's all Americanist space propaganda. And I don't know what's the big deal with space, right? It's like America just claimed space as its shit, right? Like, that's our shit right there. That space up there, that's us. That's our shit right there. We was up in that. Not none of them Soviets, not none of them Dugin, KGB, Putin people. They might have floated around with a puppy dog. We was up in that shit, right? So it's like total Cold War propaganda. Claim that shit. I claim space. Anyway, but Armageddon... I'm trying to remember what was the... So there's this iconic scene when they decide that they're all going to go sacrifice themselves and, you know, fly into the asteroid, kamikaze style or whatever, and then it plays Aerosmith. Because Liv Tyler's in it, and then it plays... I don't even know what the stupid Aerosmith song is, but... I don't know. Janie's got a... It's not Janie's Got a Gun, but it's... I don't know. What's the... Anyway, the soundtrack, it's all propaganda. And you wouldn't think, wait, Armageddon was this. And I don't want to miss a thing. That's it. I don't want to miss your thing. That's what she said. I don't want to miss a thing. Remember this? So anyway, I could stay with you. Just to do. I hate this song. Anyway, Batfleck kissing her elven shoulders. Excuse me, Batfleck, she's taken by Aragorn. Get your hands off of her, you filthy CIA hands off of her, Batfleck. Anyway, so Ben Affleck, Kamikaze, saves us from certain destruction, and Morgan Freeman becomes the president or whatever. I don't even know. They're all the same. But it is totally propaganda. So now I see where he's going. This is the deep state. The deep state is freaking nerd Space Force saving us from asteroids that, you know, this shit didn't happen either, right? This did not happen. There was no asteroid that was about to kill us that this damn Trekkie saved us from. Give me a break. By the way, you can support the show via the super chat function. Super chats over here are done on Streamlabs. Streamlabs is right, huh? And I don't want to mess around. I don't even know the lyrics. I never even get lyrics right when I hear lyrics. They're always wrong in my head. I'm always singing the wrong thing. Like I hear Phil Collins songs, and I still don't even know what the lyrics are. It's all the same stuff that I thought it was when I was a kid, which is not right. She sees the hat and Dizzy won't touch it. And that's forever what I thought it was. And it only like last year that I learned that she seems to have an invisible touch. Soon it tears you apart. And I was always like, she sees the hat and Dizzy won't touch it. Whose hat? And why will Dizzy not touch the hat? And by the way, why is Phil Collins writing these ridiculous lyrics? That sounds like he was reading, I don't know, freaking Alison the Looking Glass or some shit. Like, what is he talking about? She sees the hat and Dizzy won't touch it. Soon it tears you apart. That's a hat right there. Thank you for that super chat there. Anyway, let's get back to freaking Trekkie Force saving us from Armageddon Doom. So basically, the real Ben Affleck is this boomer Trekkie.
Only been done in movies.
Saving the world from an Armageddon scenario, potentially.
Oh, wait a minute. So it didn't happen. I thought it did happen.
Next, we traveled deep into the swamp itself, Washington, D.C.
You have arrived.
Okay, so fake Space Force and the EPA is the deep state. I mean, this is so dumb. Who even watched this? Did anybody watch this? They don't show you like the number of likes and shares. I wish they would, because it's probably none, right? But like, who actually believes this?
This is Radhika Fox.
I am the Assistant Administrator for Water at
Slay
the
Queen.
Environmental Protection.
The Water Slay Queen. She's the queen of freaking water. She's like Bryce Dallas Howard in M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong's movie where Bryce Howard is like the Banshee of water or whatever. Remember that?
An agency.
She loves Pilates, making salads, and watching the Taylor Swift Eras Tour on TV with her family.
Yikes. She loves Pilates and salads. She need to cut them carbs out.
I think we're all pretty 1989.
Oh, and she led an operation to make our drinking water lead-free in 10 years.
Oh, yeah, but not gonna make it free of hydrofluorosalicylic acid and all the other weird chemicals, so...
Worried and angry about lead contamination, residents of Newark, New Jersey are demanding...
Okay, so I guess the point of this video is that government bureaucrats with billions of dollars of budget are just, sweet ethnics. Sweet, sweet ethnics. That's a new song I'm going to do, by the way. And boomer Trekkie men. So this is what you're afraid of. Crazy MAGA people afraid of Trekkies and sweet ethnics.
Water and answers.
Lead is a neurotoxin that can cause irreversible brain damage. Folks are...
But what about all the other stuff in the water? Is it not brain damaging? So look, here's R2.
Radhika and Scott.
And by the way, you notice the theme here? Frickin' science, dude. Science. So Trump hates science. By the way, this is not like a Trump cheerleading thing. I just thought this was funny because this is what it's calling Trump out on is preposterous.
Important work like this is happening all over America. From helping 2 million victims of the opioid crisis.
Oh, look at her.
To engineering major breakthroughs in...
Oh, look at these science women. Slay science queens. Look at that. Over there with beakers and Bunsen burners. Looking like freaking Bunsen burner from Muppets, though. Right? This is who's running shit, man. And why are you hating them? Because they're ruled by science. Weird science.
And helping...
Dude, that song, Weird Science, that was about them chicks. Weird Science.
Hearing aids.
Plastic tubes and pots and pens. So this guy, hearing aids.
For 30 million people. Yep, the deep state is hard at work, making America great. Just because we don't know about it doesn't make it suspicious.
You have arrived.
Our final stop, Chicago, Illinois.
As if anybody thinks that this is what the deep state is. Right, some bureaucrat that stole a bunch of people's tax money to give a bunch of boomers hearing aids. Right? And by the way, that's still kind of theft, though, isn't it? You shouldn't steal my money to give boomers hearing aids. And by the way, does a boomer even deserve a hearing aid? No. What's your justification for that, Jay? None. They don't deserve it because they're bad boys and girls. They were they were a spoiled generation. It's time to put the boomers in damn timeout. That's why. So no, you don't get a hearing aid. You're just gonna have to try to figure out what I'm saying. This video is preposterous. This video is way dumber than I expected it to be. I actually thought they were gonna go into like Trump said this was the deep state, but this is actually a lie because the deep state is, the national security. They haven't even mentioned anything related to national security yet. They haven't mentioned anything related to the CIA, which the left and the New York Times liberals of yesteryear.
Meet Nancy Alcantara.
I am the...
Yeah, so some frickin' transitioned secretary is the deep state. Actually, that probably is the deep state, though, and I'm joking. But seriously, like, that's not... Nobody thinks that's the deep state. Some woman sitting in a freaking ugly version of Pam at the office making copies. That's not the deep state.
Director of Enforcement
this is
for
so
the
dumb.
Wage and Hour Division for the Midwest
More like Mancy.
Office for the U.S. Department of Labor. I had to take a breath, yes.
She still eats Lucky Charms for breakfast, trains for marathons, and
Well, that's her problem right there. She's eating Lucky Charms. I mean... By the way, how come nobody who is in the science division of government, which is all these bureaucrats and so forth, that none of them can figure out what to eat for frickin' breakfast and how to look presentable?
And dancing.
Cumbia, bachata, cha-cha-cha, you name it, I did it.
And she uses your tax dollars to get kids out of working in dangerous slaughterhouses.
13, 14.
Wait, what? What? Slaughterhouses? Is this a big problem? Like... all of the youth rushing to work at the pig factories, I mean, the slaughterhouses. What? Is this a code for something? I don't even know what that is. Like, what does this mean?
You name it, I did it.
And she uses your tax dollars to get kids out of working in dangerous slaughterhouses.
13, 14, 15-year-olds working on the kill floor, cleaning
the
body
kill
parts,
floor.
right? Animal carcasses. They're working with machinery such as skull splitters, bone splitters.
Nancy and her colleagues raided slaughterhouses in several states and found more than 100.
That's just targeting and going after meat companies. I'll bet you money. I mean, I don't even know what's going on in this ridiculous. This is just like a way for bureaucrats to justify their absurd existence. Oh, look, we saved this. The kid was probably wearing a costume or dressed up in something that his dad does, right? Like, bring your kid to work day or some shit, right? And we're gonna bust them for slave labor of children, but they're not gonna bust all of the illegal IMMIGRANT hiring policies of all the corporations, right? No.
And working illegally. Last year, their employer,
this is so
Packers,
stupid. Like, nobody believes that this is the deep state. This is the dumbest debunk video of all time. As if anybody actually thinks the deep state is, Mancy the frickin', what was she, administrator? Aunt Pam from The Office. That's all she's doing.
Sanitation was fined $1.5 million, one of the largest child labor cases in American history.
Kids would die. Kids would get limbs amputated. I don't even want to imagine what would happen if no one did this job.
These guys work for you, but Trump wants them working for him.
Trump wants to fire at least thousands of these people that he calls pejoratively the deep state.
Schedule F would allow Trump to fire up to 50,000 of them and replace them with like-minded people.
Sometimes it's really hard to read the newspaper where, you feel like we as public servants are being attacked.
Now, this doesn't mean that Americans can't have different ideas about how big the federal government should be. After all, there's no shortage of examples of real government.
Okay, so nothing to do with what the deep state actually is or who it is. Just a bizarre bunch of nonsense that a bunch of transitioned bureaucrats are going to lose their job. And that's going to hurt the working citizen. The working class is going to be hurt by Trump when literally every policy of the Democrats is day by day destroying the entire West. Unbelievable. So we don't do a whole lot of, boring political commentary over here because that shit is boring. But that was funny. I couldn't resist that. And that's because they did that article a few years ago. Remember? The New York Times had the article, Thank God for the Deep State. Remember that? Yes, that's it. But remember, it also didn't exist. Oh, but also the deep state is just bureaucrats working to save millions of children from pig factories. What? And make sure you get fluoridated water. Oh, here's another one. The deep state is on a roll. Maybe they changed the title. I think they changed the title. I think this one from 20, yeah, because it used to say something like, "Thank God for the deep state," and now it's like, the deep state is on a roll with a picture of frickin' Fauci. Put your mask on, take your mask off. Anyway, just a little bit of a catching up. Thank you guys for the super chat. The super chat. What's up? Nobody wants to support the show tonight. We got a bunch of damn stingies in the chat. You can support the show right there via the super chat function. We're going to be talking next about, thought we might talk about some of the news, even though I don't typically talk about news. News was kind of on my mind. And then we'll get over here to the first part of my lecture for those that missed it. The lecture, my Sexpionage talk. See that right there? Dark Forces, Religion, Technocracy, and Sexpionage. So for you public people, I will be giving you the first bit of that. I think it went for about an hour, 20 minutes. So you guys will get maybe the first little introduction to that. And then I will, for subscribers in the next couple days, I'll put my full talk up because a lot of you are not going to be able to see it. I think it came out pretty good. Even if we tour America again in 2024 like we did in 2023, most people are not going to be seeing this. So, but we did have a great turnout. We ended up getting about 105 maybe to our event. 100, somewhere in there. People were kind of coming and going, but we had a great turnout. The hippie chicks on Instagram helped out by promoting it. A lot of large channels. Thank you to Jessica Reed Krause and Emily for promoting the show. However, none of the hippie chicks of the Topanga Canyon area actually showed up, but that's okay. So it was, I didn't expect it to be particularly a draw for the hippie chicks, but whatever, man. So we'll talk about this next. But I did want to point out that it was a wild time because so many things happened I didn't expect. For example, when we got there, we had to take a morning plane at like 4 a.m. because there weren't a whole lot of options. And I immediately went to OAN with like no sleep. And we did that great interview where you can see that I got a glow up. And I thought I looked like a damn diva. I mean, I even put in my profile E-Diva right here because people were like, "Why do you have makeup on? Why do you have makeup?" People losing their mind in comments because I look freaking hot, dude. But why? Well, if you ever go on any TV show, like with an actual studios and all, they do makeup. Literally every TV show with studios has you go to makeup. And by the way, I look like freaking Magnum PI there. So what are you talking about? How dare you diss my makeup? I do look like I have a little bit of extra eyeliner on, but that's okay. So that's why I have makeup on. I don't have makeup on because I had a glow up. That was not really what happened. But yeah, we got to hang out with her. We had her and her husband, husband had dinner. So great time with Alison and her producer Paula. Then we immediately went to prepare for our event, which was wild. So we had an event, as you guys probably know, with great turnout. Here we go. So Jamie had a lot of fun.
6,000 people in Iceland. Tonight I'm playing with back room and Matthew School.
So anyway, there you go. That was fun. That was our LA event. All of our events have pretty much been kind of about the same. We had BG Cumby play our Austin. Oh, Father Vladimir gave a presentation on Renaissance art theory at the Orlando event. That's right. And Coattail, David Patrick Harry, he gave a 20-minute presentation as well at the Orlando event. So we've had a lot of these events. Next, we're going to go to, yeah, exactly. People are like, why did you have makeup on? They won't put you on TV unless you go to the freaking makeup room, dude. By the way, go look at Gaia. All of my Gaia show, the whole first season, I have makeup on in those episodes. I know that many of you thought that it was my natural glow and that my foundation was just, I don't know makeup terms. Whatever, right? Claymation, whatever the terms are for makeup people. My claymation was on point. My face looked like a Tim Burton video, claymation. I don't know. I don't know makeup terms. But if you're going to go on TV, they make you go to the makeup room. So that's the way it works. People are like, what's TV? What is that? Why would you go on that? Now, let's see. Now then, I wanted to comment on this because a lot of people thought I was being serious. So people thought, they thought I actually performed for Simon Cowell. I didn't perform for Simon Cowell. It was a dumb joke, obviously. But what I've learned from this is that no matter what you say, like the craziest shit ever, people will believe it on the internet. Like just say whatever and they're like, oh yes, yes. Yes, he went and partied with Simon Cowell. So no, this was a joke. We did, however, meet Rob Schneider and Jimmy Dore. So that was true. And that was something that Tripoli organized. So anyway, our whole weekend was crazy. The next night, before our event, not after our event, Sam Tripoli's like, hey, I'm going to be doing some stand-up at Deaf Noodles. I did not know who Deaf Noodles was. Turns out that's the YouTuber who has been involved in a lot of YouTube controversy. I didn't even know that's who that was. So I'm sitting there talking to this dude, and he's like the YouTube guy that I'm sure many of you have heard of. And so Sam Tripoli organized all this, and we were backstage talking to all these comedians, had a good time back there. When we got there, it was, who's that one woman? She is not the female version of Ray Romano. But her name is Justine Romano, I think. Anyway, she's kind of a NC-17 level female comedian, if you know what I mean. No, that ain't her. I don't know. I can't find her, but... So anyway, she was up there, and she was rated NC-17, and I'm not going to repeat, but then we were invited to go hang out with Eddie Bravo. So I drove all the way down to, we drove all the way down to, I forget where, but it was Eddie Bravo's band, and Eddie Bravo was playing a club singing about hamburgers, and he's got like a mariachi band behind him, and he's got like a white Rasta dude over here, like Roz Trent, and then he's got, somebody said he's got a 9 Inch Nails dude, and it's like 50 people up there, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And anyway, I didn't realize it was such an affair, and that the 9 Inch Nails dude is in his band. I don't see his band. Does anyone know what Eddie Bravo's band's Smoke Serpent? Is that it? This is old.
With so many choices on Booking.com, there are so many Tina Feys I could be. So I hired body doubles. 30,000 followers, Tina in the boutique.
Anyway, so it was just a weird situation where And it turns out, I thought, okay, Eddie plays Eddie's band plays, and then you know, he's after 30 minutes of a set, we'll go hang. No, he plays for 3 hours. Like, they're like, oh yeah, Eddie plays from like 5 to 9. I'm like, what? Anyway, so it's like it was not that. It was not metal. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like literally like 50 people and Eddie Bravo on guitar, acoustic, singing about hamburgers. It was wild. I mean, it was fun. It's just not what I expected. I thought he mentioned like rap rock. I'm thinking, I don't know, like, remember when rap rock was popular? I thought it was going to be like some kind of hardcore, maybe 3 songs. But anyway, then we went to Jimmy Dore's event. Now, this was crazy. I didn't realize that Jimmy Dore does these live events where he invites panel comedians to come and comment. And he said he live streamed it, so I'm trying to find this live stream. Let's see, live. Here we go. Oh, wait. Maybe he said he live streamed it to his website. So it might have been for like paid subs or something. Anyway. Yeah, this is it. So his panel live shows, I guess, are for premium subscribers. So we're sitting there hanging out, waiting for the comedians to come out, and we didn't know who it was, other than I knew Sam Tripoli was going to be there. Anyway, so Rob Schneider comes out. That's what the crazy part is. So Rob Schneider comes out, and then Kurt Metzger, who I'm sure many of you have probably heard of. I think he's been on Rogan, does a lot of stuff like in the Rogan sphere. And they just riffed on the news for like 3 hours. It was super funny. We had a blast. So I I do recommend the Jimmy Dore live streams. It was a blast of a panel. And so afterwards we went backstage, and via again Sam Tripoli, we get to hang out with Rob Schneider. We talked to Rob Schneider for about 10 minutes about stabbies and tragedy and hope. As well as Jimmy Dore. So I'd never met Jimmy Dore. We had a great conversation. People are like, are you going to interview him? Well, maybe one day. We'll see. We'll see what he thinks. But it was a really good time. It was really cool. So Sam Tripoli is, turns out, I didn't realize that Sam Tripoli is this sort of like a ninja. He's like Charles Manson of comedy. He can bilocate, like he's like appearing out of nowhere, brings this famous person over here, and then he's over here popping out with a piece of pizza and talking to freaking this other famous person. It's like, and then he's like, oh, come over here to the back room and we'll let you meet so-and-so. And he's just like this Obi-Wan Kenobi to the comedians, and all the comedians are like this, you know, and he legit is. It was crazy. So we actually, it's almost like we spent a day with Tripoli and what he does. And it was wild. So he's at one event. He does like a 3-hour riffing with Jimmy Dore and Rob Schneider. Then he goes to the Comedy Store to do his 20-minute set at the Comedy Store. And I was impressed. Like, Sam Tripoli was like insane. It was like he's just bilocating like Charles Manson. So the whole the chat's going crazy. What are y'all talking about? But it was really cool for Sam to invite us backstage. And I wanted to give Sam props for this clip the other day, too, because even though we're in a small dip, everybody's like, Bitcoin crashed. And I included this in my routine as well. So I did a little bit of a talk, as you guys know, joking around. Did maybe 5-7 minutes joking around. And then we had our my presentation. My Stephen Hawking and race jokes went over very well. So thank you guys for the Ortho Debo $3. How do you address the dink allegations? I've addressed it many times. Jamie can't have kids. So I don't know why people think this is some sort of an own, but I think really it's weird because the internet you notice what's going on with Twitter. It's like people don't even care about actual issues, topics, and like what would make their situations better, which is a lot of what we talk about over here. People really just want to talk about drama, and I think that it's not even, it's like made up fake drama too. It's like, what did you think you were gonna like? Oh, secretly I'm like Macron with his wife, and we don't want kids. Like, did you think it was some dirt that you could get? But yeah, so, and we've talked about this probably 50 times because people bring this up all the time. Oh, we got him. He's owned. By the way, if you want to support the show, you can do it right there through Super Chats. So Sam made this is almost 5 years ago. And here's what Sam said.
You just buy Bitcoin.
I feel I'm an everyday guy, man. I make all the poor choices that every other guy makes, right? So about a year ago, I bought probably $2,900 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I would be up all night trying to figure out how to open up my Monero wallet. And and I was up switching, and then I was buying all kinds of, like, it went from Bitcoin to Litecoin to like Mert. There was like something else. There was Lupita Nyong. I think I bought some of that one time. I was buying some deep shit, bro. I was deep in the Bitcoin,
in the digital
and then it all went out.
But then it's done well. Now it's gone back up. It's worth like $8,000 now.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even. I quit paying attention because I had lost all of my money, and it was embarrassing.
You hold on to it.
It became embarrassing to discuss.
Like who would know?
So there you go, Sam Tripoli 5 years ago. Shout out to Sam for that. Prophetic, right? Just hold. Now, I have to say, we were saying this since 2017-18, and just a little reminder to the boomers in the audience. How's that Bitcoin looking? Oh, yes, exactly, because boomers don't buy Bitcoin, and many of them said it was going to zero. Talked to distant relatives who laughed at Bitcoin. And now it's just the Bitcoin rub it in the boomer's face show. That's all this is. We just rub it in the boomer's face. Anyway, I thought that was a good clip. Now, no, I did not perform for Simon Cowell. Although I did think my idea was kind of funny. What if you went in to perform for Simon Cowell, and we had Jamie singing my songs, and I put up a chair, and I wore like a black t-shirt tucked into jeans, you know what I mean? And I just sat over there as if I was Simon Cowell, making Jamie's feelings hurt by crushing her soul through her singing my songs. And then I say, boring, trite, gay, right? I thought that would blow his mind if he saw that. Jamie's in there laughing, but I'm serious. Like, Simon Cowell wouldn't be able to understand that level of meta trolling. He would short circuit. Jamie, well, you don't think that you don't want to sing Funko Pop for Simon Cowell? I'll do it. But it's me as Simon Cowell. But also Simon Cowell's watching, but it's meta. It's like a weird meta voyeur thing. It's bizarre, but anyway. That's a perfect skit there. Right. So I didn't have the means at my disposal to execute this skit. And so I turned it into a playful pretend situation. And by the way, Sam Tripoli is a legit master of comedian. Like he walks in, there's like 30 Canadians at his set at like 11. And I'm like, what is he going to talk about to all these Canadians? And for like 20 minutes, he just rips Canada and Canadians and like Eastern European collapsed situations, because there was one dude from Czech Republic, and it was great. So my impressed levels of Sam Tripoli have increased. So we had a day in the life of Sam Tripoli. A day in the life. We didn't go into the evening with Sam. I'm just joking, because then it would have been dirty, I'm sure. There would have been touching butts, but None of that. No, we kept it clean. We kept it fun. If you want to support the show, you can via the Streamlabs function. So next, we're going to get into my talk. I'm going to start, and like I said, I'll clip this out later and make its own clip. If you want to support the show, you can via the Streamlabs Super Chat function right there. And by the way, my Stephen Hawking joke did good. We actually had a dude in a wheelchair roll in, and it was like uncanny, amazing, like just perfect setup for more Stephen Hawking jokes. So, let's go over here to this. All right. So what I wanted to talk about in this year's lecture series was a topic that most people are not familiar with. My audience, I think, will know this. However, the reality is that people don't know about the degree to which sexpionage or sexual compromise has really undermined a significant portion of the power structure, such that this key element cannot be overlooked if we want to really understand how the real world works. And the real world works according to things like we saw in the Bustamante talk, right, where he talks about rice instead of mice. He says reward, ideology, compromise, and ego. Or instead of reward, it could be money in the traditional MICE acronym. But what Bustamante says is that the CIA supposedly doesn't find sexual compromise to be that useful because the agents or the operatives get attached to the persons. Yeah, but that's ignoring the technique of farming that out to get information or compromising people with hoes and thoughts. Boats and hoes. Now, the totality of this talk is not going to be about dark forces in the sense of sexpionage, but this important element. And while I agree with what Bustamante says about perhaps most people, okay, the average working class, first of all, there's no reason to individually compromise them. So it's not for everybody, right? We're talking about people with, hundreds of millions of dollars that can literally fly to, Ricardo Montalban's fantasy island, right? That's the strata of society. Now, we've mentioned this book in the past. It's a very rare text. Father Francis Dvorak, who I'm sure you've probably heard of, who has written on things like the Phocian Schism, the history of Byzantine theology versus, the West. He is a famous Uniate or Eastern Catholic priest. And you might think that that's odd, but no, it actually makes perfect sense that a Uniate Eastern Catholic priest would be involved in espionage. Now, he may not have actually been involved in espionage. He may have just been a scholar, a student. But it is odd to me that that an Eastern Catholic priest ends up writing a history of the intelligence services. And this rare 1973 text is very scholarly. It goes into great detail. He begins the book by talking about how spies were crucial to the building of the first great Egyptian empire of Amenhotep III. We wasn't kings, because this is the actual history of Egypt, not the made-up stuff. I was sitting, by the way, on the plane back. I was sitting next to a brother who was watching all kind of We Was Kings videos. So we're gonna have to do some more debunking of this Hebrew Israelite We Was Kang stuff. I mean, if the dude on the airplane next to me is, learning about, how to pimp, that ancient pharaohs were pimping out their flying pyramids, I mean, we're going to have to deal with this, because this is getting crazy. People are just believing insane shit. Like that I performed for Simon Cowell. I didn't perform for Simon Cowell. That's crazy. We did hang out with Rob Schneider, though. I got super nervous, too, by the way, because when you meet these people for the first time, after you've hung out with these people a couple of times, it's a little more smooth. But I feel like a total spurg, like when I first, I was like just frozen like this, talking to Rob Schneider, like, tragic and hope, and I'm like, right, I didn't know what to say, because it's just weird. You're like, it feels like a dream, or you're in some sort of weird dream where you used to watch these people on, TV, and then you're talking to them, and it just doesn't seem real, and you get lost in your thoughts, and you're like, and plus I didn't expect to talk to him, so it's like, it's like the time that I bumped into Alanis Morissette at 6 a.m. in a hotel line, and I'm like, what do I say? I don't know. So I just didn't say anything. But anyway, isn't it ironic us meeting here? What are you gonna say? I don't know. I mean, she had a giant ass diamond ring. I could say that's some bling right there. You're like, is that real? But anyway, so Egypt's beginnings, its origins are tied intimately to its intelligence services, the secret police of Egypt. And this is important because they were closely linked to the cult of Pharaoh. And they played an important role in, amongst the population, disseminating and propping up the idea of the divine status of the ruler. This reminds me of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and the way that they have promoted the mythology of the Kwisatz Haderach throughout the universe. The universe's super being. So the cult of Pharaoh here again intimately tied into the intelligence services. This is a theme we keep talking about, because we talked a lot about the tie-in between Hollywood and the intelligence services, right? I wrote 2 books on that, working on the 3rd book, the trilogy. I got to complete the trilogy. I got to Return of Jedi that crap. You know what I mean? But we didn't, until recently, go deeper into the overlap between cults and the church and intelligence agencies. So here we are. But you'll notice that this is nothing new. It shouldn't surprise us of the OSS and CIA being interested in infiltrating and controlling and subverting the Vatican, because there's nothing new in this relationship going back to the ancient world of Egyptian secret police and their close connection to the cult of the Pharaoh. In Babylon, according to the great scholar Dvorak, spies were closely tied to the god of the roads, making early male men the first imperial spies. And that should be obvious as well, that the trafficking of information, the passing of secrets to one king from another king, using cryptography, etc. Obviously, that's all essential to the functioning of a vast empire. So notice that vast spy networks typically go hand in hand with vast empires, and perhaps America's vast empire and its bloated bureaucracy of trying to maintain this insane empire. That's probably a crucial element to why we have this vast real deep state. Okay, not the stupid ass Soyance boomer version that the New York Times was talking about earlier in that video, but the real actual deep state of the intelligence establishment and their black ops and their overlap with the banking elite, the banking sector, and the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 Bilderberg types. So nothing new in these connections and relationships. But again, few know this. Few people know this. By the way, thank you guys for being here tonight. We're having fun. It's an atypical live stream. Usually we would do it earlier, but we didn't get in from Los Angeles until very early this morning. So if you guys want to support the show or ask questions, you can do so via the Streamlabs link right there. Super chats are done via Streamlabs. This will function as half of a full talk. Since we were out doing our event, the subscribers didn't get a full subscriber talk this week. So you will get access then this week to my public talk of 2024, the connection between spies, intelligence agencies, sexpionage, and technocracy. You said, what? You can't connect all those things. Allow me to engage in my wordsmithery and creativity of stream of consciousness connections, and I will wow you by showing you that, yes, I can. Gods of the roads, trafficking of information, making the early mailmen spies. You know, mailmen were spies. And probably the milkman, too. Yo, daddy, the milkman. Remember the milkman? There used to be people that would bring you actual milk. Like archetypal 50s stuff. And we are already in the Blade Runner dystopia where everything's fake and nobody would even believe that there was a milkman. Like, wait, what? Actual milk could be brought to you by a guy in a van? And it would be fresh, actual milk. We need to bring back... Somebody should bring that back, dude. The milkman. But then they said everybody's real daddy was the milkman because all the wives were sleeping with the milkman. To demonize the milkman. So they came up with the sexual lie compromise that everybody's real daddy was the milkman to attack the dairy industry. I'm just being silly, but we should get the milkman back and have actual raw milk because that's the most nutrient dense type of food next to meat. And that's, I'm sure, intentionally destroyed. Spies of the king were believed to see all and know all. They actually propagated this myth that they had total information awareness, which comes back into the picture down the road via TIA, via John Poindexter, total information awareness, DARPA, all the surveillance that came into prominence post Big Nine. Now, it existed prior to Big Nine, but it bloated up excessively post Big Nine. And by the way, I just read 2 chapters out of the James Rusbridger book, which you have probably heard me mention before. Well, I'll mention what he says in that book. He talks about how spy agencies thrive on fake threats and getting funding for doing absolutely nothing. So keep in mind that the more we decode this, the more we understand this, it's a lot of deception and con artistry that ties into just bloating government nonsense. And by the way, I'm not saying that, I'm just a libertarian, right? Because it doesn't matter either way, like whether you want a big government or whether you want a big giant private corporation. It's the same thing. Oh, whoa, right? Spies of the king were believed to see all, know all. They propagated that myth about themselves. Thus, again, we tie the spy networks to the cults. Massive empires required vast intelligence and spy networks, and that is part of the explanation for the Pax Americana and our pseudo-empire throughout the entire world, basically foisting this technocratic nonsense everywhere. Of course, everybody knows that that's not actually what America is about. That's the distorted, non-interventionist, post-CFR America that we now live in. Jamie Bursick says for $5, Jay the real milkman. I hate to break it to y'all, but I'm about half of y'all's real daddies. Okay, I'm gonna hate to break it to y'all right now. Joe's sitting here next to a white man talking about milk. That's racist, but not really. I'm gonna have to break it to y'all, chat. I'm about half of y'all's real daddy, okay? Because I used to be the milkman. That was my Cat Williams, which, by the way, did good. Everybody liked the live version of Cat. Cat Williams showed up at my live event, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, not the real Cat Williams, but the as good as real Cat Williams, which lives in here. Now, moving on. I thought it was interesting to also talk about the biblical narratives of espionage and spying. And honey traps. People don't even think of what? Sexpionage in the Bible? What you talking about? What you talking about, Jay? What? Yes. Hello, do you remember Delilah? Delilah is absolutely 100% a Philistine honey trap. Thus, I chose Hedy Lamarr as Delilah as the image for this talk. Because we were in freaking Hollywood. Duh. See? Are y'all? Come on. Let's bring those neurons together. Make some connections, slow boys. This is largely a fast audience, but we got a few slow boys in this audience and a few slow girls. It's okay. We got a few Ice Spices in this audience. Jamie's in there laughing. I thought all of the ice. Haha, that's one of my jokes. But that's just because everybody in Britain has Down syndrome. Did you know that? Literally, they're all hobbits. That's what the Hobbits is about. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because I can't say these words on YouTube. But you know what I'm saying, right? We got zingers all night. Now, spies in the biblical narratives. What is up with this freaking light going off? You need to stay on, buddy. Making me mad. This light's all burnt up. Anyway. Can y'all even see me with this stupid light? I bought like 5 different lights in here. We've got like legit stage lights in here that are awesome. But then these little lights are just not, they're not good. Now, this is worth noting because you might be surprised that actually the CIA has done a study of espionage in the Bible. And in that 1978 issue of Studies in Intelligence from the CIA, there's an entire treatise that a scholar wrote on the history of espionage in the Bible. The article goes on to talk about Joseph and the accusation of his brothers being perceived as spies in Genesis 42, 6-17, which would have carried a pretty heavy penalty. In Judges 13, there's a story of Ehud who uses quite a bit of deception to assassinate the massive hand-planted Moabite king Eglon. It says the hilt of the knife went all the way into his fat rolls, literally. Did you know that fat rolls in the Bible they're literally fat roll hand-planted people in the Bible getting assassinated by like a knife going all the way into the gut, dude. And I'm just like, has nobody read the book of Judges? Nobody knows. And people just don't read books, I guess. But Numbers 13, Moses sends out Joshua to spy on the Canaanites. Joshua sends spies to then spy on Jericho in Joshua 2. You might recall the Rahab, right? The lady of the evening incident there. Judas is actually also considered a kind of secret agent for the Sanhedrin. Oh, you didn't think about that, did you? However, I noticed this journal missed the best example of a honeypot. Delilah is a Philistine honeypot. All the examples listed here are in the CIA journal, Studies of Intelligence in 1978. Craft of Intelligence also. Alan Dulles' famous book, Craft of Intelligence. It also has a chapter at the beginning that discusses the biblical history of espionage, and it cites some of these same incidents here, particularly with numbers. Now, you've heard me talk about the history of revolutions. We're going to fast forward to French Revolution and then Bolshevik Revolution. What we find in common with these revolutions, both of which, by the way, share in all the other revolutions, the same fundamental components of revolutions against man, against man's biology, and against the social order. So it's not just revolution against church and state. Those are key elements for sure in the revolutionary history and in the revolutionary philosophy. But when we understand that the same sexual revolution occurred, this occurred in tandem with key figures in society also being corrupted and also promoting degeneracy. So we think about the sexual revolution of the 1960s. We think of that as a 60s thing. And it's not anything new in the 1960s. It's a cultural revolution that existed also in the French Revolution. For example, we know the story of the revolutionaries bringing a lady of the evening into Notre Dame Cathedral and placing her upon the altar to engage in the coitus. That was an intentional sort of desecration ritual, but it also signified, as they titled her, Lady Reason. So the hoe was Lady Reason. And I kind of think, if I remember correctly, isn't that like what the Statue of Liberty? She's like a hoe, dude. I'm serious. Because isn't she the same Lady Liberty that the revolutionaries were talking about in Notre Dame Cathedral? I think so, if I remember correctly. Now, how do I know this? Well, before I got into all the Sutton, Quigley, Dore, all this deep intelligence type history analysis stuff, I had some really in-depth grad school classes and undergrad classes on the French Revolution. And I took a lot of classes on Marx, on the French Revolution, on the Jacobins, etc., as well as the Frankfurt School. So I got pretty deep into this before even knowing a lot of the more deep geopolitical analyses, right? I had not read Sutton's book at the time I was taking my Marxism and critical theory class, my Frankfurt School class. However, my professor at the time even said there was large-scale capitalist funding for these revolutions. And so I had figured out, I didn't know, by about 5 or 6, that Marxism and its revolutions were funded by big capital. When I was a research assistant, I found Warburg's letters. And Warburg has a letter where he actually says that he's glad for, and I think he talks about funding, the Bolshevik Revolution. So Lenin, Trotsky, particularly Trotsky, were getting this money from these banking families. And it wasn't just Warburg and Schiff types. It was also Rockefellers. In fact, it was run out of... Sutton even tells you the address. Like, the Bolshevik Revolution was literally run from, like, 167 or something, you know, out of New York. Like, he tells you the address of and London, right? So there was a complimentary outfit in London that was running the Bolshevik Revolution. But here's the thing. People don't know that a lot of the Bolshevik Revolution as well included pretty much eyes wide shut type stuff. One of the guys involved in that was a guy named Gleb Bokyai. I need to add Gleb Bokyai to the slides here because Mark Hacker did a great translation from a KGB colonel or military guy, somebody in the KGB intelligence staff or the Russian intelligence establishment at the time, a translation about the figure of Gleb Bokyai. And he was really promoting and engaging in, you know, what you could say is like eyes wide shut type stuff, literally like satanic eyes wide shut stuff. Soviet or Bolshevik individual. We know about Blavatsky going over and engaging with many of the KGB and the Soviet, Rorik and others. She was most likely an intelligence operative, I think, for the Rhodes-Milner Circle. And then we have situations like Alexander Kollontai, who we covered, who there's an entire documentary on that we shared the other day, trying to actually paint her as a hero, but actually admitting everything that we say. So her whole promotion of polycules, open relationships, all of this, she pushed all that, and then, by the way, regretted it when her dudes were all cheating on her, which, to be fair, I would cheat on her as well because she looked horrendous, but that's just a joke. But also it is true that she's ugly, and they're promoting total open degeneracy. It was so bad that was part of the reason that Stalin stopped the revolution, is that you had an entire, slowed it down, right? And then the Trotskyites were all like, oh, you're not a real revolutionary. You're a bourgeois fascist revolutionary. And so the Trotskyites would call Stalinism they would say that, you know, Stalin's basically no different than Tiny Mustache Man, and that's not real revolution because you have to stick to these insane, just destructive policies. But the logic of the Trotskyites is all that destructive stuff accelerates, right, the destruction to bring in whatever nonsense of proletariat work, you know, whatever bullshit they're promoting. By the way, this was a crazy thing. At the Jimmy Dore event, 2 boomers. You can't make this up. 2 boomers show up. It's a kind of a small theater. Maybe 60 people in there, right? You got 2 boomers. One literally looks like Bernie Sanders wearing a Trotsky shirt. I thought for literally, I kid you not, for 10 seconds, I thought Bernie Sanders was at Jimmy Dore's event. I'm like, is that Bernie Sanders? Is that Bernie? I don't know. And then another archetypal Q boomer, I'm not kidding you, a evangelical Q boomer shows up wearing a green MAGA hat and gets into a shouting cussing match with the Trotskyite Bernie Sanders guy. I kid you not. And then the Trotskyite Bernie Sanders guy gets in an argument with Rob Schneider, who starts, and they're just going wild, going at it. And then at the end, to make up, Jimmy Dore told the boomer Trotskyite Bernie Sanders to hug the boomer Q guy. So they hugged, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is so great." And on one level, it was great to see people having, fun, exciting, cuss each other out political discourse, because it was great entertainment. But I'm over here thinking, dude, this is a perfect symbol of the marriage of capitalism and communism, because they're the same. Like the real Promethean analysis, right? In the sense of Robert Anton Wilson's book. Like, it's what you see on the screen right here. Y'all. We got the real analysis of this, right? I mean, it was fun, but look, Marxism is a product of monopoly capital, and always will be, because it needs its dialectical opposite. And by the way, the higher level initiates of the Jacobins and the Trotskyites actually say this. They actually say, if you read the Rakovsky interrogation, if it's valid, assuming it's valid, it seems to me that it is, that's where he's like, you Stalinists are just bourgeois. Trotskyism is the real, authentic Marxist revolutionary philosophy. And we will always have our opposition until we are able to destroy both sides. So the communist capitalist dialectic will destroy each other, Rakovsky says. Then we will get to the final stage of where we're going, which basically just sounds like wiping out most of the people. But, and that's, if the Rakovsky interrogation is legit, that's also kind of like, well, like Stalinism is like, whoa, dude. Like, even Stalin realizes that this doesn't make him a good guy, but he's like, this doesn't even work to run a society. This only works to ruin a society. Because you had basically, after this generation of free love and polycules, a whole generation of single men who became criminals, raised by single moms. So it destroyed marriage, destroyed the family. A whole generation then raised as criminals, and Stalin's like, okay, this just does, it doesn't function, right? The Trotsky stuff doesn't make the society function. And this is where you get the Soviet Party moving in the direction of, okay, we got to at least like ban a lot of this Skittles stuff, right? That does not make Sovietism heroes and good guys, but it illustrates the point I'm making. So you can't have revolutionary philosophy without sexual revolution, is the point here. And sexual revolution doesn't happen just organically out of nowhere because everybody's Victorian repressed people or something. I mean, that might play a role, I don't know, but ultimately the revolution is intimately tied to the removal of the boundaries of sexual self-control. So you have to have the two together. You can't have a cultural revolution without the sexual revolution. And I'm speaking of revolution here in the worst sense, right? Like not any kind of good counter reaction, right? People might think, well, don't you disagree with the system? Do they make you revolutionary? The system that we have is a revolutionary system. So that would make us counter revolutionaries. Okay, that's the traditional term for what we are is counter revolutionary. That's everybody who is wholesome, somewhat traditional, and isn't just completely degenerate. Okay, you would be called by these people, the revolutionaries, you would be called a counter-revolutionary because you oppose the revolution. And that would be anybody. That would be the bourgeoisie. That would be the fascists who the Trotskyites would say are versions of bourgeoisie. Trotskyites call fascism bourgeois socialism or bourgeois nationalism. So, Quigley notes, for example, that the French Revolution was funded by elite banking houses in Europe and Protestant families and Europe aligned with the U.S. elite, including Morgan, Chase, Vanderbilt, etc. And they were tied into this Cecil Rhodes's idea, this model that comes from Cecil Rhodes and Lord Ralph, child. I always think of, when I say this, my code words, I always think of King Ralph with, who's Roseanne's TV husband? I just went blank. You know what I'm talking about. By the way, what's up with the... Tonight we're speaking to the poorhouse. So we got all of our poor bros, which is fine. I'm not dissing you guys. This is just called a joke. Right? John Goodman, thank you. Yeah. So when I say Ralph child, I always think of King Ralph with John Goodman. Anyway, if you want to support the show via Super Chats, you can right there. We're having fun tonight, joking around, being diverse and inclusive and wholesome all at the same time. So Cecil Rhodes' Society of the Elect model, which is the where we eventually get the roundtable groups, the John Ruskin idea of a world federation. The Fabian organizations that spin out from this are a great example as well of spy networks and cults being intertwined again, because we get Madame Blavatsky as the proto-New Ager. The New Age movement literally springing from Madame Blavatsky, who is a agent of the Fabian socialist circles here. That's also why her freaking Macbeth level witches, right? Bailey and Besant, right? It's like the three witches from Macbeth, right? You got Blavatsky, Bailey, Besant, the three B's, the bitches, right? Literally pushing Fabian socialism under the guise of witchcraft, New Age, and stupid occult stuff, right? And of course, by the way, yes, Blavatsky influences through theosophy both the New Age movement and Tiny Mustache Man. So things are getting pretty wild here. If you want to support the show, by the way, you can do so via Streamlabs Super Chats. Now, I know that you guys have all heard me many times discuss the Rothschild, Rhodes, Milner, the roundtable groups. We've talked about that a lot. I'm not going to rehearse all that. But the focus that we want to talk about tonight, is the espionage side of it. And there's a great book that does tie a lot of that in, which is Stephen Dorrell's MI6 book. And you know that in the Rotiu book, which we've referenced many times, Rotiu in the Milner book, he relies quite a bit on Dorrell as well. So a lot of the sources that we have in the Rotiu book overlapping with a lot of the sources that we've been studying and referencing over here on my side of things for many years. And by the way, if you are interested in the deep research, the Dorrell MI6 book is an absolutely necessary addition to Sutton and Quigley's books. So the Society of the Elect model of Cecil Rhodes, his Last Will and Testament plan, which I bought, Rhodes's Last Will and Testament, by the way, shout out to History Homos for mentioning that. They set the stage for the model for Royal Institute for International Affairs. That's roundtable groups. Then we get Chatham House. Then we get, which is the mirror to Pratt House in New York. We get the Royal Society as well, which is older, goes back to King Charles, but still also part of this with Royal Society deals with a lot of geology and science studies, but also many of these Royal Society geologists, etc., also engaged in espionage. Of course they did. Oh, I'm here to study the rocks and do espionage, you see. So this is classic espionage stuff here. Early Bolsheviks, as we said, engaged in free love, open relationships, eyes wide shut parties. So revolutionary philosophy then, as the key point here, is total. All life and all areas of life must change to fit the great work, and sometimes that includes intentionally promoting the things that are destructive to society. to intentionally implode the society. Now, this is the chief stumbling block, in my view, to most people really understanding what's going on. They cannot conceive of intentional subversion. They are all stuck on incompetence. If we could just vote the rascals out, if we could just get rid of the bad apples, as if it's all just incompetence. No. It's an intentional subversion. And this is studied and well known and has been for many years. For example, and this is touched on in the Wim Hof book, this is touched on in recent Ratio book. This is all the books we've been studying recently touch on this. It would seem that the power elite, and by the way, Colonel Edwin Mandell House was just the operative for this superstructure that we're talking about. He was the handler to Woodrow Wilson. So working for that Rothschild Milner circle, the controlled figure of President Woodrow Wilson was crucial at the time of both the passing of the Federal Reserve Act, as well as World War I, as well as the push later on to get the deep state, we could call it, even though it's not exactly that yet. But in his day, it was called the Inquiry. This is the private intelligence networks that existed at that time. Well, I say they're private. They're a bunch of university individuals, but they're working for private wealthy interests is how it works. But so Woodrow Wilson, if you remember, he becomes president in 1913 to 1921. But he also had the ideological acceptance of Fabian socialism. So remember, Woodrow Wilson accepts the notion of Fabian socialism. Presumably that might be why he ends up supporting things like the Federal Reserve. But the World Superstate Plan that Ratio mentions on page 184 and 185, it needed things like World War I. So we have the fake flag event of the sinking of the Lusitania to bring the U.S. into World War I. And that's, again, during Woodrow Wilson. Note and recall the Four Freedoms, the Four Freedoms lecture that we have with Woodrow Wilson. That, or principle, the dogmas, the Four Freedoms, that's all part of the push for Americanism that becomes a huge influence on the Second Vatican Council. So this false flag event, then we get Wall Street and London managing the Bolshevik Revolution. We get the establishment of the Tavistock Clinic at this time, and this, of course, becomes one of the groundswells for both MKUltra in the UK and in America. And MKUltra ends up being, many people don't know, all over the place. I mean, they were doing MKUltra studies and research in Australia, as we've covered. All over the place. Much wider than most people know. Now, not accidental as well that at this time Theodor Herzl, where we get essentially modern Zionism from, he was also very much a socialist utopian. And Lord Ralph brags about the Balfour Declaration being the work of his family in many videos. It's public news, mainstream news, not any kind of conspiracy theory. Now, Wilson, it seems, was blackmailed. This has even come out in the Washington Post. Now, it could have been other worse blackmail than this, but at least as far as we know from the mainstream sources, the blackmail was that he had written these dirty letters to some woman, and she looks pretty rough, too. You ever notice how, like, every woman in the 1800s was just dog ugly? Like, literally everybody looks like a grandma. Like, nobody was hot in the 1800s? I don't understand. Like, nobody looked good in the 1800s? Like, what the heck is going on? No, literally, there's nobody hot in the 1800s. I challenge you to find a good-looking woman in the 1800s. Anyway, yeah. So Woodrow Wilson apparently compromised, even in mainstream media we see. But what's fascinating about House, for many of you that don't know, in 1912, so a year before, get this, a year before Woodrow Wilson is president, Colonel Edwin Mandell House, the operative from the superstructure establishment, that were the real deep state that we're talking about, he wrote a novel called Philip Drew, Administrator. And this is a summary from online. It says, the story is about a man, Philip Drew, who leads a revolt against the United States government because it is corrupt. After the revolution, however, he scraps the Constitution, makes himself administrator, dictator, and then changes every concept of national state government to reflect his autocracy. So basically, Brave New World, again, same people, same model, same strategy, Brave New World. This is the coming out, the model that's coming out of the Royal Society, Royal Institute for International Affairs, Ruskin World Federation model. Same strategy, same principles. And this is 1912. So this is, what, 20 plus years, 20 years before Brave New World? And we have to get rid of nation states, right? Because nation states and state governments are, I don't mean the 50 states of America, that's part of it, but any state governments are an impediment to world government. So they have to be co-opted, they have to be turned into frontispieces for a world federation. And that's in a fiction book written by Colonel Edwin Mandell House a year before he becomes before his operative, he's the handler to Woodrow Wilson, who the Washington Post admits was compromised. This is crazy. So you see how this works. So sexual compromise with Woodrow Wilson was a key element to getting a lot of this stuff through and pushed. And I'm not saying it all just depended on Woodrow Wilson, but I'm saying that for powerful people, right? Jeff Stein McEffrey's Retardo Montalban Fantasy Island, right? The plane. Bill Clinton on the plane. That's tattooed for those who don't know, right? Remember? Compromise seems to be the norm for powerful church and state and corporate officials. And of course, we learn that in this book. So, but that's not the topic tonight. You've heard me talk about this graph. This is a graph that we don't need to repeat over and over and over, but it lists some of the institutions, the Fabian Socialist model institutions that we're talking about. Royal Institute for International Affairs, League of Nations, which is the model before the United Nations. World War I produces League of Nations. It fails. Thus, World War II produces United Nations, intending to be a stronger, better version of League of Nations. These are all the proto-Fabian Socialist models of world government. Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg, World Bank, IMF, World Council of Churches, National Council of Churches. The Rockefeller funded and created ecumenist entities to help put the churches under the control of these things. We have the establishment of OSS, CIA, MI6, Mossad, and NATO. Trilateral Commission in 1973 for Brzezinski specifically, Aspen Institute. All of these, except Trilateral, by the way, were established prior to 1960. And if you've not seen this great graph here that someone made many years ago, this is just in the realm of media and how many people in media attend both Beberg, CFR, and Trilateral. And you'll notice that it's mass media, everything from news to entertainment to tech. So if you're wondering, how are the policies coordinated? Here you go. Here you go. How do we get the same Skittles push throughout all the media? There you go. How do we get the same Stabbies and Fauci masks across the world? Because the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 all attend the same steering committee meetings together. There you go. That's how. And the books that we're talking about all talk about this. Dore's book mentions Bilderberg. Mainline history of intelligence. And so we call this institutional capture. Right now, getting back to religious subversion, the ecumenist movement, as we pointed out in the Collier and Horowitz Rockefeller American Dynasty book, is funded by the wealthiest elites in the U.S. There's an entire chapter in that book bragging about the support and funding and creation of, essentially, the ecumenist religious movement in America from the Rockefeller family. They talk about how much money they put in it. They talk about how much Granddaddy Rockefeller was impressed by Swami Vivekananda. And it's not because Swami Vivekananda was such a moving, heartfelt guru. It was because he saw the use of this idiotic philosophy to control the masses. Stop being naive. The OSS and CIA get involved in infiltrating the Vatican and the churches. We just covered that in our lectures in the Michael Graziano book on the CIA and the history of religion, as well as the Paul Williams Gladio book, as well as many other, the Ganser NATO text, etc., etc. The Wim Hof book. The New Age movement, as we said, funded and steered by Esalen, Tavistock, etc., to promote those ideas. Feminist movement then is funded by the same entities. Gloria Steinem, for example, was a member of the CIA. She brags about CIA stuff and how good they were. So this is important because, as we pointed out in a few live streams back, people mistakenly think of the CIA as, oh, that's a right-wing organization, paperclip, it's right-wing. No. The CIA was always anti-Soviet, but never conservative, as histories of the the CIA's own journals point out, is what I'm saying. Like various academic texts point this out. It's never a conservative organization. It was always working with postmodernists, leftists, whatever. Congress for Cultural Freedom, the majority of the push was liberal ideas in the arts and postmodern ideas in the arts. They worked together with the French postmodernists as a strategy of opposition to Sovietism and Soviet realism in the arts and cosmism, etc. And that's what Gloria Steinem herself says, that she had to be part of the Cultural Revolution because that was part of the CIA strategy at this time. That's why Abrashan and abstract art and free love and 60s countercultural, Tim Leary admits it, that it was all CIA stuff. The LSD, all of that. Fighting the man, but it's all fake. Playboy. Hugh Hefner also gets CIA money and funding. Andy Warhol, CIA supported art. Jackson Pollock, CIA supported. So you see the Cultural Revolution is crucial because it's tied to this sex revolution. So in media, well, media is captured through operations like Mockingbird, and that's the Mighty Wurlitzer. You can read how the CIA played America in the Hugh Wilford book. There's an entire chapter in that book, by the way, on the Congress for Cultural Freedom as well. And this is the, compromising and buying off and capturing of, I don't know, it was, I'm trying to remember the numbers, like 100 newspapers, like all of the top papers that you think of, New York Times, whatever, but also a bunch of other, like 400 of the top journalists, I think was the right number, something like that, right? At the same time, education is co-opted by NGOs, foundations, think tanks. Think back to the Reese Committee hearings in 1952 to 54, which admits this. Why are the Ford Foundations, Rockefeller Foundations, J.P. Morgan Chase, why are they putting so much money into particularly socialist, Fabian socialist ideas in universities? Now, all of the people get confused out here because they think that they're fighting straight up Marxism. And the type of socialism that we're talking about is not really classic Marxism. It's called reformed Marxism. It's Fabian socialism, which is socialism aligned with monopoly capital. And that's why they can never figure it out. That's the ruse, the cloud. There's two big things no one can figure out. Now, a lot of us can. I'm talking about our audience. We all know this stuff. But for the rest of the people out there that are beginning to wake up, they still are immediately caught in the, I'm a libertarian versus you're a damn statist. Libertarians versus statists. All right, that's level one. They can't get, like, what's his goofus name? Who's that idiot that we had the debate with? Austin Peterson, right? They can't get past that, and then they can't get past that everything's run by incompetent people. So if we can only throw the rascals out and get competent people in there, as if we're not run by a deep state. And the deep state is not fat office women and bitchy managers and bureaucratic Space Force businesses. That's not what the deep state is. It's this. This is who the deep state is. These people. Anyway, so the Protestant and Catholic churches from the 1930s to 1960s get fully institutionally captured. A lot of the American Orthodox Church as well is obviously institutionally captured too. I'm not all of it, but a sizable portion of it, I'm saying. So it's not like, oh, you're saying Orthodox are immune to this. No, I'm not saying that. Now, Gladio, as we know, is a paradigm example, and we recently covered some of these texts here. I'm going to stop here, though, because this talk will be essentially for subscribers. The rest of this talk will be what you didn't hear tonight, and you can hear the rest of it by subscribing at the website or to my Rockfin for members. Thank you guys here. So a lot of people always say, why don't you debate so-and-so? Most of the people that you're talking about, we've offered to have discussions and debates with these people. Most people don't want to have debates. So just cluing you into that, they're not interested in having debates. But thank you for that anyway. Let's see, we got some more super chats. Shout out to our super chatters there. If you want to support us via super chats, you can do so right here. I do have a couple more things I want to cover, so don't go anywhere, not going anywhere yet. But if you subscribe to the website, you get access to the part 2. I will do this for you. Also, I think our next event will be, I think we're going to try to do Vegas. So maybe in a few months we'll do Vegas. And look for that. But of course, I'll let you know. And if you happen to be from Vegas and you see the part 2 lecture, remember you can always come to see Jamie's talk. You can come to see Jamie Kennedy doing stand-up. We're thinking Jamie will be with us at our Vegas event as well. Jamie Kennedy and Jamie Henschel. So there's other talks. If you feel like, well, I've already seen the part 2 of your talk, Jay, because I'm a subscriber. Well, you can come get your book signed. You can come see Jamie's talk. It's really good. Jubson's $3. Dale Tuggy says whether he'd debate you or not. And then you sent me a link. Although on Streamlabs, I can't highlight a link there. But I trust that it's not a link to Naked Midgets or something. I trust you, Jub. I trust you. But I don't know. I don't really have any interest in debating. I mean, he needs to debate Dr. Branson. So, but I don't know what he says. But thank you for that. Ortho Debo $1. I'm sorry for the trolling question. I was curious. What do you think about? I would stick to canonical Orthodox people. MKG $5. And you got to even suss those out too, because just because people are canonical doesn't mean they can't be, secretly liberal on the down low. Thank you for the book recommendations and theological work. Do you have any upcoming Muslim debates? No, I mean we've already done 5 Muslim debates now. I mean, I don't know how many more Muslim debates do we have to do before, somebody's like, okay, he's finally shown that he can debate a Muslim. Like, how many more do we have to do, right? I'm surprised though that one thing that happened after every Muslim debate was like every time I would debate a Muslim from the very first one, the Nizam Ghaffur discussion, they would be like, "Good job, not debating real Muslim. Wait until you debate real Muslim." It's like, who's the real Muslim? Okay, then it's the next guy. Okay, then you debate that guy. Good job, except you lose. Wait until you debate real Muslim. Who's the real one? Oh, it's this guy. Azra Rashid, Paul Williams, Shabir Ali, Daniel Hakikachu. Oh, but it's not the real Muslim. Now it's Jake. So who's the? It's like the real. It's like the no true Muslim fallacy, right? No true Scots. Well, you haven't debated the real Muslim yet. There's an infinite series of the real Muslim. Like it's an infinite series of Muslim turtles all the way down, and you never get to the bottom of the real Muslim. There is no final boss Muslim. We're playing Donkey Kong. It's infinite levels, dude. Storm the Cat, $5. In Dune Part 2, we hear Paul's mom talking to unborn daughter Alia. This reminded me of Macbeth. Interesting. When they overhear Lady Macbeth accidentally revealing what they did to King Duncan. That's a very perceptive analysis. I do think that if you read enough Frank Herbert, you'll notice that he was a super smart dude. I don't agree with all the perennial stuff, but very educated. And yes, absolutely. Shakespeare references are totally common in literature and movies. Bayes Lit Analyzer is really good at pointing out a lot of Shakespeare references that many times we would miss. I mean, I took grad classes on Shakespeare, so I should know a lot of these things. But even I miss these things. I mean, I had my my Shakespeare grad class was like 15 years ago. I don't remember half of that stuff. So it's nice to see, people who can point those things out. And yeah, a lot of these courtly intrigue stories and whatnot that we see and we find fascinating in Dune. By the way, I think Game of Thrones is pulling a lot of those kinds of stories and themes from Dune. And Dune is probably pulling a lot of these stories and themes from, classic courtly tales. So absolutely. Fucksburg, $5. I support all of your good work. Well, that then by default means that you support all of the work, because all of what we do is good work. Dark Horse, $30. I found you through the Wilsons. I can finally get my daily fill of debates, theology, and contention. You got a daily quota of contention? You just sound like you need to relax a little bit. Sounds like you need a deep tissue massage, bro. You don't have to find. Who wants to find daily contention? As you get older, you want to find daily peace. You want to cut down on daily contention. You get tired of it. But shout out to Dark Horse. Much appreciate that super chat support. Storm the Cat, $5. Is Fabian socialism like Trotskyism, except it's opposed to... it's not the same as Trotskyism, because Trotskyism, I think... I'm not an expert on Trotskyites or Trotskyism, but I think the Trotskyist idea is that the revolution is perpetual. Probably most of the Trotskyites wouldn't think you need to align with monopoly capital. They would be very vehemently opposed to that. But the Fabian idea is that no, original Marxism didn't work. We're never going to get a bourgeois... the proletariat never going to rise up and seize the means of production and control, right? So we might as well align with monopoly capital to achieve soft socialism in a slow way, rather than this overnight revolution where, Joe Sixpack is going to suddenly care about neologisms of, Trotsky versus, Stalin or something. I mean, it's just crazy. But 40 got house on the lake, $2. You should come to Arizona. Do a poll on Vegas versus Arizona. I doubled the amount. Can we get the Paul Washer impression? So, because if you came to the LA event, by the way, I did include my Paul Washer impression. So, live viewers got to hear it. We had I don't know if you're the dude that gave the $1 last time, if you're the dude that was at the LA event, but somebody at the LA event came up. He was like, did you do the Paul Washer impression? And I was like, yeah. But that was like within the first 5 minutes. He's like, oh, dang, I missed it. Well, I don't know what to tell you. But I don't know if that's you or not. All right, let's see. I think maybe we should cut it there, because the rest of what I was going to talk about doesn't really make sense if I continue to. Because then we can just make this all about the real deep state, and that would be one coherent narrative. But I want to remind you guys that we do have a show sponsor, which is Chalk.com, the best in supplementation. Now, it is true that the picture has no Yuval Harari on it and Nick Cage. Why would you put Nick? There's literally no reason that Nick Cage is on the thumbnail. Sometimes I just put Nick Cage in shit for no reason, and there doesn't have to be an explanation. Like, people are always looking for, like, oh, what's he really trying to? What's that mean? Sometimes I like to just troll the people that are like the decoders, always looking for crazy symbolism. It's like, no, it's just Nick Cage, dude. It just is what it is. Sometimes things just are what they are, and they don't have to be some other thing. Ponder that, conspiracy quacks, all you tinfoil hatters. Head on over to Chalk.com. We got some more super chats here. Get a hold of that performance stack. That's my favorite. You get the Tomcat Ali, which is great for boosting testosterone. You don't pay $174, by the way. You pay half of that because you get the J. Dyer discount, because Chalk.com loves us about 30 to 40% more than they love Tristan, by the way. So if you support us by going over to Chalk.com, use the promo code J50, that's JAY50, you can actually prove to Tristan that we are more loved than he is. Because Chalk.com, unfortunately, kind of loves Tristan. We know they love us many more points, but you can actually put little aids in his place. That's my name for Tristan. By going over there and buying Chalk.com, thus causing Chalk.com to love us more than Tristan. And that's really what we want to focus on. Now, you also get the Chad mode, this amazing pre-workout, no toxic crap. It's all strictly better than organic. That is the Chad mode with the Chad dude on the cover. Yes, the meme, the Chad mode meme is the Chad mode pre-workout. And don't go too heavy with that stuff. Trust me. Seaton was like, did you try the freebasing of the chalk yet? No. I did one line of chalk, and I basically, I was ready for the octagon. Okay, let's put it that way. But don't do that. That's a joke, by the way. So don't freebase the chalk, and do not snort the chalk, and do not do weird butt chugging of it either. None of those things are the right way to do it. The way that people party with it. No, this is serious stuff. Action 2.0 also available. You get all those products by using the promo code J50 at a 50% discount. You can't beat that. Head on over to chalk.com right now. The link is in the show description. Also, MKG says for $5, does this mean that you're done with formal debates? When did I say I wouldn't do any more formal debates? I just said, what other Muslims are there to debate? The only other one to debate is, what's his name? Mohammed Hijab. There's not any other, like, who else is there? There's not any other ones. And by the way, they're all the same. Have you noticed they're all the same debates? Like, so, but no, when did I say I wouldn't do any more? I just said, there's not any, what other Muslims do we have? And then there's a dude, there's a Protestant dude that wants to debate, Real Luke Dyson. And I said, he's like, do you want to debate Protestants versus Roman Catholicism? I'm like, we know this dude is not familiar with my position if he thinks I'm a Catholic. And I'm like, well, look, man, I'm not Roman Catholic. I'm Orthodox, but yeah, we can have a debate. I asked him to come on tonight, but he couldn't do it. So anyway, don't know where you got that I said I would not do any more debates. I just said there's not any more Muslims that we know of. Maybe there's hidden Muslims. There's a hidden imam. The hidden imam somewhere. They'll probably say that. You must know debate the hidden. It's like moving up levels of a video game to the final boss, bro. It really is. Anyway, if you want to get the second half of the talk, tonight's Sexpionage talk, head on over to jaysanalysis.com and subscribe for $4.95 a month or $60 a year. Or you can subscribe over on Rockfin as well, because we got a lot more. We got a lot more deep information to cover about the real deep state and not the fake made up bureaucrat general manager level deep state that the New York Times would have us believe. Also, remember to hit like and share. Also, if you're in the Vegas, Utah, or California area, remember you can be prepared for our Vegas event. So we're thinking like maybe June or something. So start preparing. I don't want to hear any excuses that I didn't know you were coming to Vegas. None of those excuses. No. Also, you can get the books. Yes, there's always the books. And what are we going to cover next? Like I said, we're going to cover the Red Book. Everybody's been buying the Red Book. $40, excuse me. 45, I forget what it is, but 660 pages of all my geopolitical and apologetic essays in one big fat book. So we're going to finish the rest of this book soon. We're going to finish this book. So I'm trying to gradually work through the Looking Glass. And then we got to finish the rest of this book in our analyses. So those are the upcoming geopolitical analyses. And everybody have a blessed Kwanzaa. And I will see you